This is indeed our IoT and wearable devices meetup that our founder and president, Walt McClay, who's also here, he'll say hi to everybody a little later. He created this a few years ago. We meet every 4-6 weeks with an interesting topic. And today's topic I'm particularly excited about. It's wearables for the ear, the medical and the personal applications for ear-worn devices. You will hear from Gary Spittle, the founder and CEO of Sonical.
Thanks, Miguel and Voler Systems. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So yeah, we're really excited to be able to tell you about what we're building, which is a completely new platform for ear-worn devices. I'll start with a bit of history of how we got there and then explain how we've built this system to enable some pretty amazing things to happen. And the next stage of this is to work with some key partners to enable products to be built. So Headphone 3, which I will explain, is really enabling apps for the ears. So if you want to go to the next slide, Miguel. So we have spent the last sort of 20-25 years at various companies building technology for ear and audio products. Specifically, the sort of the biggest transition that we caused was around making products wireless with Bluetooth. But what we have found is that there's an enormous amount of innovation happening. And the more that we talk to people, the more we realize that we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to enabling these new experiences. But what's holding a lot of companies back is the ability to actually take that technology and get it into a device that somebody can wear. There's a lot of great stuff happening in the lab. There's a lot of new research. There's great software being built, hardware components being built, but joining it all together is proving to be really, really difficult. And so we spent the last 5 years as consultants trying to help product companies do exactly that. And what we found is a number of things. First observation we made is that everybody's trying to do something different. It's not like there was one particular application or one use case that everyone was trying to do. And if we could just solve that problem, we would suddenly unlock an enormous market. It was exactly the opposite. Everyone was heading in different directions. They all had these great ideas. They had all of this work they were developing in their own R&D or using third parties. And so there wasn't like a one size fits all. And so every time we helped these companies with a project, we'd basically have to start all over again because they would select a different chip, a different software stack, a different radio. And as a consultant, we would basically have to build an entirely new platform every single time, which took a long time and it was very expensive. And so we built what we call an operating system for your ear, which we call Cosmos, to make that journey a lot easier. And now we've built a system based off of that operating system where we can download apps from the cloud and put them straight into your ear. So if you are wearing a pair of earbuds and you wanted to enable spatial audio, assuming you have all the right hardware capabilities, you can just download that feature into your earbud. You don't have to go and buy a new product. You don't have to wait for the manufacturer to upgrade it for you. You don't have to figure out whether the software is compatible with the chipset that happens to be buried inside your device. You can simply go and get an app and put it in there. And that's exactly how we use all the other devices that are currently in our possession, our laptops, our phones, our smartwatches. Really so why can't we do it for the ear? Okay, next slide. So we came to this conclusion based on a lot of consulting work, but also because we have a pretty unique combination of skills within the company. We've worked for recording studios and very large professional product companies, building equipment for Hollywood, for a lot of broadcast applications, music applications. We've built everything all the way down to tiny little micro components, including silicon for radios. We've built acoustic components like microphones and speakers and balanced armatures. We've built software, we've built end devices. And when you bring all of those skills together, you realize how to solve a number of different problems that the industry is facing. And, you know, if you think about, if any of you have had the fortune of ever going to Ireland, if you go to Ireland and you ask someone for directions, the very first thing they tell you is, well, I wouldn't start from here. And that's exactly what happened when we were looking at some of these new technologies. We couldn't get to where we wanted to be using off-the-shelf components. So we had to rethink and rebuild the system from the ground up. Next slide. So when you think about the ear, most people think about an ear device as something that, enables them to listen to music, maybe make a phone call. And it's a very basic device that just squirts sounds into your ear. And for most applications, that's true. But there's still a lot of things that we can do to improve that experience. We could make sound a lot more natural. We could make sound binaural, because we've all got two ears that use special binaural cues. We could actually monitor the amount of sound that we're exposed to. And all of these things are features that people have asked us to implement. So that's kind of just listening to audio. But another area that's really important is about listening to the world, understanding what's going on around us, and being able to communicate in all kinds of situations, being able to hear what's going on so we can actually learn and, have discussions about things, being able to understand what's happening around me or even behind me so I can go for a walk outside and have awareness and feel safe. So there's a lot of things that we should be adding to these products to not just listen to music, but also to listen to what's happening in the space around us. And then the final thing, which is probably the most relevant for this session, is about listening to your body. The ear, it turns out, is one of the best locations for grabbing biometric information. We can actually measure all kinds of features and gather this data inside the ear. So we can embed tiny sensors to do things like measuring your heart rate variability, oxygen level, motion, temperature. Obviously, we can pick up voice near the ear, and it's a much better location than the wrist in terms of exposure to noise, and also for things like brain activity. So we know that the ear is this fantastic place, but today we've got all of these companies building apps for the smartwatch. And the only real reason they do that is because that's where the sensors are and that's where the computing is. And we've made it really easy with Android to put apps on the watch. So what we're doing at Sonical is making it easy to add sensors and software apps to your ear so we can get an even better sense of what the body's doing. Now, the key to that is if I can measure what your body's response is to certain things or to continuously monitor what's happening, I can do something about it. And a lot of the medical professionals we're working with make it really simple for us. They say, look, we can grab information, we observe what it tells us, we may request other information in the future, but that's how we determine the state of somebody's wellness. Well, we can do all of that remotely if we have access to this kind of technology. Next slide. So there's a lot of opportunity to really change how we build and use these ear devices. And so to kind of put this in the context of the history of ear devices, headphones really became popular when we were listening to music, and in particular with the Sony Walkman. That was more of a consumer device that we could take on the go and we could listen to music whenever we wanted. And it was extremely popular. And it became digital with devices like the iPod and other music players, but they really all had the same function. It was to just take audio and music and play it back to us. And there's a lot of wired devices that are still built today. But really, the next transition is where the market took off, which was where we made these things wireless. We added a DSP chip. And in particular, it was the inclusion of Bluetooth. So now I can use my earbuds and I can connect them to my phone and I can stream music wirelessly. I can make phone calls. I can reduce the noise around me. So they're a lot more interesting as a product and they're a lot more valuable. But that has its limitations. And mostly this is because of the Bluetooth connectivity and the chips that are inside the products. They were never designed to do these very advanced features. They were designed to do those basic things, and they do it very well. Now, Apple have taken the lead in this market by building their own system. They have their own chips, their own software, their own radio. they can basically define exactly what they want to do, and they've been moving further away from everybody else. And so we've positioned Headphone 3 and defined what it has to do to enable everybody else in the Android space to catch up or even overtake Apple. Now we don't have to have these fixed systems. We can let the user go and get apps and download them to their earbuds in the same way we do with other products. Okay, next slide. So here's just a kind of one of the snapshots of what we see happening in the future. One of the things we're trying to do is take features out of the phone that really don't belong there. And as I mentioned, some of them have already migrated to the wrist as more of a wearable phone type device, although it does still have a screen and it has its own limitations. But if we think about the ear as an independent product and what we would like to wear and how we would like to use it, we can see there's a lot of advantages, in particular around putting intelligence not only in the ear-worn device itself, but also offloading some of that to a connected device, which may not be a phone or a watch. It could be a separate unit like the charging case of the product. And we're seeing a lot of manufacturers wanting to go this way. They don't want to be dependent on the phone and then rely on the phone's updates so they can get new features to their device. They want control. And so they're building more intelligence into the pieces that they own within the ecosystem. They also are desperate to open this up to third-party developers. So the way we see this is no one is as smart as everyone. So no matter how big these product companies are, if they open up their product for other people, they can get access to very advanced features very, very quickly. And so that's one of the benefits of having an operating system. So we're seeing this transition happening. We're being less dependent on Bluetooth. We're being less dependent on basic processors and microcontrollers. And we're moving towards this ear computer platform that's really going to change what we can do with our ears. Next slide, Miguel.
Yeah, on this slide, we had a question from John, what BLE stood for, and Walt already answered that. So it's Bluetooth Low Energy, right?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, I should have made that clearer.
Perfect.
So one area that we are particularly interested in is how we can gather information at the ear, understand what it's telling us, make certain observations, maybe collect additional measurements as they're needed, and then inform the user about certain things. So a very simple example could be that while I'm listening to music, I might be monitoring my heart rate to determine whether that music's making me excited or helping me relax. And then I can classify certain bits of sound so that in the future, I can just simply ask my device, play me some relaxing music, and it's already identified the kinds of things that help me achieve that goal, rather than a generic playlist that Spotify hopes will do the job. So those sorts of things, being able to present the body with a signal or an experience, measure what the body's reaction to that is, and then learn from it is absolutely critical. And we're already doing this with some very simple use cases, and we're looking to grow that. So if we think about some of the more advanced things, with more sensors inside the ear, we can do things like look at the brain's activity. Is there a lot of things going on, or is the brain actually calm and relaxed and it isn't very stressed? We can also measure biomarkers inside your speech. So we can analyze how you're talking, your intonation, the kinds of phrasing, how long it takes you to say certain words, and how that compares to other times in the day or even over longer periods of time. Has your speech changed over the last 6 months? All of these are very good indicators for certain conditions. And so we're looking to work with the medical professionals to understand how we capture that and what can be done with it. The other really important factor is the convenience. If you look at some of the other devices that are available today that do function extremely well, they're not necessarily the most convenient to use, they're the most practical. They could be uncomfortable. And a lot of the time, they're just not very discreet. You wouldn't want to leave the house wearing some of these things. Whereas if we can even capture a fraction of that data, it's very helpful to do that during other times of the day. So I don't have to wear my medical device 24/7. I may wear it for certain times at home, but then when I go out, I'm still gathering some useful information when I go and have a coffee or have lunch with a friend. So that's where we see this moving initially. And we would like to help other companies that understand all this information join up with the AI experts, the software algorithm developers, and bring together into a system that can actually unlock some of this. Okay, next slide. So as I mentioned, we've built this ear computer platform. The first full system is going to be available at CES. We'll be announcing who our silicon partners are for that. We gave people a teaser look into this at the last big trade show at IFA in Germany. But we'll be able to show exactly what's possible if you have this amount of computing inside an earbud. And it goes far beyond simply changing the way Spotify music sounds. And as part of that, we're establishing this new team in the UK in one of the university incubators to really look at this opportunity to bring new technology to the ear. So we're looking at things not just about audio, but in all three of those buckets I mentioned at the beginning. So listening to the sound, listening to the world, and listening to your body. The key to enable this is to help third parties. So there's no way that Sonical is going to be able to invent all of the software and all of the technology. We have to work with partners to enable this to happen. And so that's what we're looking for today. We're looking for people that are like-minded, that maybe can see where some of these opportunities might be hiding that we're not aware of, and we can work together to try and go after them. And in particular, around the healthcare and the wellness space. So that was a pretty quick intro to what we're doing.